Hello guys, this is your teacher Nicholas and today we're going to study how often. Repeat again. How often. Very good. And how often means cada cuánto, okay? So this we use how often in order to ask questions. For example, how often do you go to the cinema? Cada cuánto tú vas al cinema. Okay? Remember that how often is part of the simple present. So we use the auxiliary do and the auxiliary does. Okay? Other example is how often does Yvonne cook hamburger? How often does Yvonne cook hamburger? ¿Cada cuánto Yvonne cocina hamburguesas? How often do you clean the house? How often do we clean the house? I'm sorry. So it's cada cuánto nosotros limpiamos la casa. Or how often does Fabián go to the church? Cada cuánto Fabián va a la iglesia, church. Okay, church. Now, in order to answer, para responder, tenemos los adverbs of frequency. Okay, adverbs of frequency. Okay, so we have always, repeat after me, always, often, often, usually, usually, sometimes, sometimes, hardly ever, hardly ever, and never, never. Okay? So these are adverbs of frequency. Always, siempre, often, frecuentemente, usually, usualmente, sometimes, algunas veces, hardly ever, casi nunca, never, nunca. Okay? And here we have some other expressions that we can use. We can use once, repeat after me, once, which is una vez. Twice, which is dos veces. Twice. Then we have 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and so on and so forth, etc. For example, times means veces, okay? But when we use una vez, se usa once. Y para utilizar dos veces, se dice twice. De resto, se dice 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, okay? Here we have one example using this. So these ones, guys, these ones are used at the end of the sentence. Estos se utilizan al final de una oración, ¿ok? For example, I study Italian once a day. Yo estudio italiano una vez al día. I go to the cinema once a month. Yo voy al cine una vez al mes. ¿Ok? This is super easy. Now, let's practice how do we use the adverbs of frequency. Practiquemos cómo utilizar los adverbios de frecuencia. Let's continue. So here is the grammatical structure that you need to use. Entonces sigan por favor esta estructura gramatical siempre para utilizar los adverbios de frecuencia. Entonces primero va la persona, luego va el adverbio, luego va el verbo y luego va el complemento. Aquí tenemos unos ejemplos. I never go to the cinema. I never go to the cinema. So yellow is the person, green is the adverb, blue is the verb, and purple is the complement, okay? So I, yo, person, never, nunca, go, Voy to the cinema. I never go to the cinema. Okay? Other example is she usually goes to the church. Ella usualmente va a la iglesia. She usually goes to the church. Or you sometimes go to the mall. He hardly ever goes to the beach. We often watch TV, okay? We often watch TV. So, ella usualmente va a la iglesia. You sometimes go to the mall. Tú algunas veces vas al centro comercial, We hardly ever, he hardly ever, he hardly ever goes to the beach. Él algunas veces, o casi nunca, perdón, él casi nunca va a la playa. And we often watch TV. Nosotros frecuentemente vemos televisión. ¿Ok? Entonces, siempre para responder, utilizando los adverbios de frecuencia, va esta estructura gramatical. Ahora, solamente hay una excepción cuando utilizamos sometimes. Sometimes. ¿Ok? ¿Qué es sometimes? Do you remember what sometimes is? Well, sometimes is algunas veces. So here we have an example. Y esta es la excepción. So we can say sometimes, Marcela sometimes goes to the church. Marcela algunas veces va a la iglesia. Or we can say sometimes Marcela goes to the church. ¿Ok? Entonces, siguiendo la estructura gramatical, primero va la persona, luego el adverbio, el verbo y el complemento. Pero solamente con sometimes puede ir primero. Entonces, primero iría sometimes, luego va Marcela, luego va el verbo y el complemento. ¿Listo? Okay, so let's practice the professions vocabulary. Let's remember professions vocabulary, and here we have photographer. Repeat after me. Photographer. Photographer. Very good. Now here we have, and she is a reporter. Reporter. Okay? Una reportera. She's a reporter. Okay, now here we have, she is a dentist. Dentist. Okay? And here we have an architect. An architect. Okay? This is a very interesting profession, isn't it? Architect. Repeat after me. Architect. Okay? Now, here we have a firefighter. Firefighter. Repeat after me. Fire, fighter. Firefighter. Very good. And here we have a lifeguard. Lifeguard. These people work on the pool or on the beach. Okay? They save people from getting drunk. Okay, here we have a vet, which is the person who cures animals, okay, who works with animals. And here we have a construction worker. Construction worker. Repeat after me. Construction worker. Okay, very good. And now let's practice. Let's practice how often, and let's practice simple present. Remember, siempre que utilizamos presente simple, el verbo va con ES o S al final, ¿ok? Esta explicación ya lo había hecho en videos anteriores y también se los expliqué personalmente en clase. Entonces, por favor, revisen cómo es la conjugación de los verbos en presente simple. ¿Listo? Entonces, un ejemplo, what does a teacher do? ¿Qué hace un profesor? What does a teacher do? ¿Ok? Do, hacer. What does, auxiliar. What does a teacher do? So, a teacher teaches students. Un profesor enseña estudiantes. A teacher helps students. Un profesor ayuda a los estudiantes. A teacher works in the school or at a university. Un profesor trabaja, works, en un colegio o en una universidad. Okay? A teacher creates, which is very similar in Spanish, create, crear. A teacher creates activities for students. Un profesor crea actividades para los estudiantes. Okay? There we go. And here we practice how often. How often. Now, how often does, because it's one teacher, how often does a teacher take photos? Cada cuánto un profesor toma fotos. Well, a teacher hardly ever takes photos, okay? Un profesor casi nunca toma fotos, okay? How often does a teacher sleep in the school? How often does a teacher sleep in the school? ¿Cada cuánto un profesor duerme en el colegio? Yeah, well, you know, never. A teacher never, nunca, a teacher never sleeps in the school. Un profesor nunca duerme en el colegio. Okay? Very good, guys. I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, please leave a message and I'll see you next class. Goodbye.